Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. Prepare for launch.
OTC is go.
Packetbus is go.
PTC is go.
LPS is go.
Houston flight is go.
Pilot go.
STM is go.
Safety comms is go.
SPU is go.
LRD is go.
SRO is go.
CDR is go.
Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Consequences so severe, so pull your trigger quickly, dear. Our patriots are acting up, let's punish them with fear. Hey, hey!
Hey, it's episode 304. It's 304 of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. And you may notice, if you look at the show notes, you may notice that the description of the show has changed. That's because the mission of the show has changed. Version 4.0, it's more about personal growth and self-help, relationships, improving yourself to be a better version of yourself. I was going to say to become a better person, but that's sort of condescending, right? To where it makes it sound as though you're somehow less of a person or something when you say, like, you can become a better person. No, you become a better version of yourself. You improve. You get an upgrade, if you will. Version 3 of a program is generally, it's got some different stuff than version 2 or version 2.8. It's not necessarily a better version. Sometimes, it could function better in some ways, but it's a different version. It's a newer version. It's a better version. So as I'm becoming a better version of myself, I want to help you become a better version of yourself. And it's really interesting the way things happen, to where I'll put things in the show notes and then I'll hear something and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a second, didn't I have something like that in my show notes? So I was listening as I was driving from Boston to Burlington on Saturday after not getting a lot of sleep the previous 48 hours or so. I was listening to an episode of the School of Greatness podcast, and it's one of the podcasts that you have heard me talk about over the last couple of months. And the guest was a guy that created a meditation app, and I don't remember the name of the app. I have not downloaded the app. I'm not here to promote the app, but he was talking about this meditation app and some of the benefits of meditation. And so then I was going through my notes to figure out what I wanted to talk about on the show today. And what do you know? I had something in the show notes on 4 things that meditation does to your mind and your body. But before I get into explaining how meditation can actually have benefits to you, I guess first I need to explain what is meditation, because it's something that you hear thrown around, but not really, at least as Americans, we're never really taught how to meditate. We're told, like Buddhist monks meditate, and the guy that was the host, or not the host, but the guest on the show, was a former Buddhist monk. So I guess it's sort of fitting that a Buddhist monk would make an app that helps you meditate. But, like in Judeo-Christian America, we're not really taught about meditation. We're taught about prayer, like you should sit down and pray and whatnot, but you're never really taught to, listen for guidance or, so prayer, at least the way I was taught about it, was basically like you go into a quiet place and you sit there and you talk to God, or you talk at God rather, but you never really give that period of allowing something greater than you to communicate with you directly. And, some people would say that's because there is no God. And other people would say that's because, God works in mysterious ways. It's that still quiet voice, or still small voice that, through various intuitions, etc. But that's really neither here nor there. But Americans, at least those that grew up in sort of a Judeo-Christian sort of upbringing, were never really taught about meditation or what it is, other than it's something that, those pagans in the Far East do. But so let me jump into an article here real briefly about meditation. The author of this piece says that the most important habit that he's formed in the 10 years of forming habits is meditation. Meditation, he says, has helped me form all my other habits. It helped me become more peaceful, more focused, less worried about discomfort, more appreciative and attentive to everything in my life. I'm far from perfect, but it's helped me come a long way. And so he wrote down, there's more that he has here, but he's written down sort of steps on how to meditate. And I'm not going to go through all 20, but let me just start with the first one. He says, sit down for just 2 minutes. This will seem ridiculously easy to just meditate for 2 minutes. That's perfect. Start with just 2 minutes, a day a week. If that goes well, increase it by another 2 and do that for another week. Go on until you get up to 10 minutes by the end of the second month, which is amazing, but start small first. And basically, meditation is you sitting there and sort of clearing your mind, not really thinking about anything, but also thinking about what is happening. He says that you should meditate first thing in the morning, but do it whenever it fits into your schedule. He says don't get caught up in the how. Most people worry about where to sit, how to sit, what cushion to use. This is all nice, but it's not that important to get started. Start by sitting on a chair or on a couch or on your bed. If you're comfortable on the ground, sit cross-legged. It's just for 2 minutes at first anyway, so just sit. Later, you can worry about optimizing it so that you'll be comfortable for longer, but in the beginning, it doesn't matter. Just sit somewhere quiet and comfortable. Check in with how you're feeling. Count your breaths. Come back when you wonder, and I'll jump into that just a bit. Or actually, I won't. I'll post the link in the show notes. But the most important thing on how to meditate is develop a loving attitude. And don't worry, you're not doing it wrong. And then I'll tell you why.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. But Mr. Drake's security company has seen better days. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. But at what cost? Will anybody care? And can anyone stop him? Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
So before I jump into the benefits of meditation, I sort of went over the how to meditate briefly, ever so briefly. Just sit and stop thinking. And it's really difficult. It is really difficult to sit and stop thinking, because there are so many things going on in life. And I actually was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and one of the things that they said was, has anybody ever told you you probably work too hard? And my response was, yes. So, I understand that it's difficult to just sit and not do anything, just sit there. Not watching anything on television, not reading a book, not listening to a podcast, just sitting and not doing anything for 2 minutes. And 2 minutes, on the one hand, it seems like it's not a lot of time. But on the other hand, it is an extremely long time when you're so hectic and so busy, and you're like, okay, I've got 2 minutes to just sit and not do anything. And, there have been studies that show that, busy people or not busy people lose track of time, and there was a guy that went off into the wilderness and, tried cycling on some 36-hour sort of schedule thing, and he wasn't able to know how far time was. He thought that time was taking longer than it was, or vice versa. So, sitting there quietly for 2 minutes, not looking at your watch of, has it been 2 minutes yet? No, it's been 5 seconds. Has it been 2 minutes yet? No, it's been 12 seconds. Has it been 2 minutes yet? So just sit and think. And or actually sit and don't think is really how you meditate. But before I jump into the benefits of meditation, I want to make sure that I tell you a way that you can keep your money in the free market. That is, if you use free market money, you do promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world, right? Then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. Spend-A-Bit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spend-A-Bit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend-A-Bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. So what happens when you meditate? And I will post the link on how to meditate in the show notes. But I will also post this of what happens when you meditate link in the show notes as well. But let's go into this. So what happens when you meditate? Science, the article states, has some compelling evidence that shows that meditation can have some profoundly useful effects on some of the important areas of your life, including mind and soul. It could actually save your life. Meditating boosts your brain power. Studies at UCLA showed that people who meditate have more folding of the brain's cortex, which is believed to promote and enhance neural processing. And the longer you meditate, the more the brain develops in this way, according to UCLA researchers. Long-term meditation could therefore make you improve your decision-making and increase your concentration. The research suggested that meditation was also likely to help with better judgment, better emotional control, better self-regulation, and even pain control. And for those who are into self-improvement, meditation can also help you become kinder and more compassionate. And I think that those are two things that are definitely needed more in society, because there are just so many people that are angry and they're always upset. They're not nice people. And, society has sort of devolved in a lot of ways. And I think that, if everybody just sat down for 2 minutes, I realize it's not that long of a time, but if everybody in the world sat down for 2 minutes and just meditated, then I do think the world would be a better place. Some people say, well, if everybody would just hit the bong at the same time. If everybody, there are many ways that society could wind up being nicer. And I think that, there's definitely research that shows that meditation helps do that. So if you want to be a nicer person, then, sit down, relax, meditate. You will have a healthier heart. So not only will you generally be a nicer person, a more calm person, but you will also wind up having a better heart, literally a better heart. Studies have consistently shown that people who meditate have better heart health, and now there is proof that meditation could cut the risk of death from cardiovascular problems by almost half. A study at the Maharishi University of Management showed that people who had heart disease were 48% less likely to suffer a heart attack, stroke, or death if they practice transcendental meditation. And over the course of 5 years, those who meditated were also a 25% less likely to have, or rather to be hospitalized because of their condition, compared to the control group who were simply given information about heart-healthy exercise and diet. Those who meditated achieved an astonishing 4.9 mmHg. I don't know what that means, but a 4.9 something drop in blood pressure, and also reported feeling less angry. So, it makes you nicer, it makes you less stressed, and it winds up possibly keeping you out of the hospital for some sort of heart disease. What else happens when you meditate? Well, here's something that seems counterintuitive. If you sit and you do nothing for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, what happens? Well, aside from the physical benefits of a healthier heart, you become a more kind person, a less angry person. Well, you also wind up becoming more productive. I know it seems counterintuitive. If you take time out of your day to do absolutely nothing for 2 minutes, you wind up accomplishing more. And I will tell you about that, as well as the fourth benefit of meditation, or at least according to this article from lifehack.org. I'm sure that there are much more than 4 things that you can wind up having as benefits of meditation. But I'll get into it. Stay tuned.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Meditation makes you more productive on average. The research from the universities of Washington and Arizona found that 8 weeks of mindful meditation training enabled managers to multitask without feeling as much stress or fatigue. In the same study, other workers were given either no training or instructions on how to relax the body, and neither of these groups felt as calm or as energized as the mindful meditators did after demanding task. More benefits that the meditators experienced included a better memory for details, and they were less likely to stop and start tasks, preferring to focus all their attention on a particular duty until it was finished. So you meditate, and you wind up becoming more productive. It's one of those things that I realize it seems counterintuitive, but it's one of those things of when you lower a tax rate, the revenues actually wind up increasing because you're not discouraging the activity. Now, there's a lot of people that will look at what Ronald Reagan did and say, Ronald Reagan was great because he cut taxes and revenue increased. Yeah, and he also wound up increasing spending. So, yeah, not so great. But it does show that when you don't disincentivize something, then there's more of the thing. And people will often talk about how cigarette taxes or alcohol taxes discourage people from smoking and drinking. But yet they'll then look at property tax and say, well, we have to have property tax because fill in the blank. We have to have this tax because fill in the blank. Well, wait a second. If taxes on alcohol and tobacco discourage drinking and smoking, don't taxes on labor discourage people from working? Don't taxes on property prevent or discourage people from owning property? And it's something that most people never really think of because, cognitive dissonance. Because, well, we have to have these things, and however could we have these things unless we stole money from people through taxation? But there are certain taxes that discourage things, but no, other taxes, they don't discourage anything. You're nuts if you think it does. Well, what else happens? Let's get back to meditation. What else happens when you meditate? Well, you become more resourceful. The article, again, this is from lifehack.org. They say, speaking of personal development, certain types of meditation have also been found to improve problem solving in specific ways. Researchers at Leiden University carried out a study comparing two types of meditation to see how they improved the meditator's ability to come up with solutions. People who were asked to practice open monitoring meditation, whereby you allow yourself to be open to all internal and external sensations, showed a dramatic improvement in divergent thinking. This meant they were better at brainstorming, coming up with novel solutions, and thinking outside the box. The other group of people who were asked to practice focused attention meditation, which involves concentrating exclusively on one object or sensation, such as breath, the focused attention meditation group showed a slight improvement in convergent thinking and performed better on tests that rely on speed, accuracy, and logic. Now, there was an episode of, actually a couple of episodes of the School Sucks project where Brett was talking about the differences between convergent and divergent thinking, and I don't remember the difference between the two. I couldn't even tell you the definition off the top of my head of either. But again, this is one of those sort of serendipitous things of, you listen to something and then all of a sudden, you're reading something else or you're listening to something else and the same theme sort of pops up. And that's really, I talked about this back in January, that's really what led me to launch version 4.0 of the podcast that had episode 300 coming up, and what better time than last week at episode 300 or actually was 2 weeks ago now, to change the focus of the show because, just all of these things were sort of lining up, and, it's one of those things, I guess, it's not really a meditation sort of thing because I wasn't sitting and doing nothing when things lined up, but I had allowed myself to sort of be open to, seeing signs or hearing things or whatever, so it's difficult to put into words exactly the hows and the whys of whatnot, but I again, like I said, I talked about it back in January when I started listening to the School of Greatness podcast, and I only found it because he interviewed Alanis Morissette. Had Lewis Howes never interviewed Alanis Morissette, who I had a huge crush on back in the 90s, then I never would have sort of gone down the road that I'm on as far as the self-help, personal growth sort of thing, and then the show never would have sort of changed focus. And it's sort of interesting as well that the show has changed focus because there was a show a long time ago. I don't know if a long time ago is the right term, but a couple of years ago, Stephanie Murphy used to do a show called Pork Therapy. And she stopped doing that. She started doing a show called Sex and Science Hour, which is actually relaunching at the end of this week. And I'm not really sure where you'll be able to find that, possibly over at sovereigntech.com. I'm sure Brian will have a link over to Sex and Science Hour because he's been talking about it on Sovereign Tech for a while, because Stephanie, of course, is the producer of Sovereign Tech, and she'll guest appear on the show every now and then. So Brian and Stephanie are relaunching Sex and Science Hour. not going to be as broad as pork therapy was, I don't believe, but there's definitely a niche that needs to be filled among Liberty programming, and I hope to fill that. So stay tuned to Peace Love Liberty Radio, bringing 4.0.
Do you want to make Liberty popular? Then join the Freedom Book Club. Bitcoin Not Bombs. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the Bitcoin month, delivered to you every month while recognizing books promoting the ideas of liberty. freedombook.club. Make liberty popular. That's freedombook.club. In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
Hi, this is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, we're in the final moments and the closing seconds there of the previous segment. I mentioned about a niche that needs to be filled, and that's something that you really don't see a lot of. Well, it's starting to be a little more and more in Liberty programming, is sort of niche programming aimed at a specific sort of segment of the population. So Sovereign Tech is aimed at the tech side. You have Sex and Science Hour that is aimed, I'm not really sure what the aim of that is, because I know that it spun off from Pork Therapy, that was a personal growth, self-help sort of show. And, then Sex and Science Hour was more, exactly what the title suggests. So it was more looking at sex and technology. And then there are other podcasts. So there's the Anarchopreneurs, there's Liberty Entrepreneurs that are looking specifically at sort of the small business entrepreneur aspect of things. But from what I was seeing, there's not anything directly targeted to Liberty people, the Liberty community, that deals with personal growth and self-help. There's a lot of stuff that deals with education. There's a lot of stuff that deals with news, like here's the news of the day. And that's what I was doing for a long time. And, now I think it's needed to sort of hone in on something, especially something that I'm struggling with myself and that I'm going through of, hey, let's look at this, and let's look at personal growth. Let's look at improving ourselves, and let's do it through the eyes of somebody that can, in some ways help you understand how this will wind up creating a better free society. And let me just jump back up here in this article on the meditation. And one of the things that it said was you wind up becoming less angry. You wind up becoming a kinder, more compassionate person. And again, that's something that I think is really missing, especially among people that call themselves libertarians. There are so many people that are libertarians that are just angry all the time, and they're complete a-holes. And, you know what? Just meditate. Don't sit there and smoke weed and say you're meditating or say you're doing activism by smoking. But no, sit down. Take 2 minutes at the end of the show. Take 2 minutes. Just sit and be quiet and try to stop thinking. Don't forget, every Wednesday I answer your questions. Send those over AMA@FPPRadio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copyheart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas, which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.